Hello, my name is O.C. Stevens, and today I will be presenting Invasion of the invasive species kind. Many areas throughout the United States are being invaded by invasive species, and it seems we are powerless to stop them. Or are we? Today I will convince you that the threat of a species not native to your home is very real. Chances are, where you live, there are up to a dozen invasive species. So what can we do to combat these invaders? First, we must know what an invasive species is and what effects it has on the environment, on us, and what we can do to stop it. First off, what is an invasive species? Fish and Wildlife Service define an invasive species as a plant, fungi, or animal species that is not native to a specific location and has the tendency to a degree to cause damage on the environment, human economy, and/or human health. It is our duty to help protect our home and area from species that would harm us, our children, pets, or environment. But what is an invasive species and what is a non-native species? In the United States alone, the Fish and Wildlife Service estimate that there are nearly 50,000 non-native species in the United States. Out of those, 4,300 are considered invasive species, meaning that they are the culprits that cause the issues with the environment, native animals, and humans, both monetarily and health. So what is the difference on a non-native and invasive species? Although both are classified as species that have been introduced to an area that is not native to their kind, non-native species have very little impact to the new environment or surrounding. An invasive species poses a serious threat to its new environment. In my home state of Florida, I'm about to show you 3 invasive species that have affected our area and the entire state. One being the lionfish, the other the rosary pea, and the python. The first I'll bring up is the rosary pea. It was introduced in Florida back in the 1950s from India. It was brought over due to the beautiful flower that it produces and the beautiful red peas that it has. The issue with this plant is that the plant is like a vine and will cover over other plants and in turn killing them and setting up a permanent residence, then spreading further and further out. The biggest problem is it's deadly. One seed has enough ambrin, which is a toxin that is more poisonous than ricin, can be fatal to a human if ingested. Just 0.0015 of ambrin can kill a grown adult. I'm 6'3", 250 pounds, and it could kill me. Just one pea. Imagine if a child were to take this. The removal of the plant must be done with gloves, and any skin that has come in contact with the plant should be washed with soap and water as a precaution. Also, fire does not damage this plant. It will burn it, but as long as the root survives, it survives. The next invasive species is the python. It was introduced in the Everglades back in the late 1980s to early 90s, mostly from people who collected them as pets. They got too big and they set them loose. There are approximately 1,000 pythons that reside in the Everglades and are spreading north into the Florida wildlife. The native species are being affected by this invasive species at an alarming rate. As an example, the key mouse, only found in the Everglades, has all but become extinct in the wild, and young alligators are targeted as well, causing a decrease in the estimated current population of 1 million alligators in Florida. The impact to humans is that if a person were to venture into the Everglades and happen across the path of a large python, which can grow over 20 feet in length, could be a fatal encounter to the person. The third invasive species in Florida is the lionfish. This fish is actually new to our shores of Florida and has only been present in the waters for only about 2 decades at the most. Even in that limited amount of time, without having any predators to keep the numbers of this fish in check, their population has boomed. This gives the lionfish with an aggressive behavior and poisonous barbs, an insatiable appetite, a territory that jeopardizes native fish and people who have the misfortune of crossing the fish's path. These fish live along reefs and man-made underwater structures, and in recent years of research, reefs have seen a population decline of native species as high as 79%. I, as an avid fisherman, have noticed the decrease in the fish population on both coasts. They're not only in the Gulf of Mexico, but also in the Atlantic. And it is not uncommon to go to an area where just 5 years ago, you could drop your bait in, catch a few native fish. Now, you're lucky if you catch one, and the rest of the day you're catching nothing but lionfish. That's how bad they are. So what can be done to combat an invasive species? It depends on many factors depending on the species, but the Fish and Wildlife Service have set general recommendations. The Fish and Wildlife Service have some general recommendations to help stop the spread or combat the invasive species in your area. Find out what the most troublesome invasive species are in your local area, avoid spreading them, and try to confront them if you have them on your property. The seeds of an invasive plant can easily get transported in mud and dirt. Always remember to clean the dirt out of your hiking boots or off your vehicle before you leave an area. Find out who the local contacts are in your area that can give guidance and identify unknown species. Don't bring animals, plants, and agricultural products, fruits, vegetables, and soil into the country illegally. Fill out customs declaration forms completely and honestly. Learn more. Become more educated and help spread the word about invasive species. Learn more about your local natural area and the species in your yard. This will help you identify things that are not native and that might be invasive. To continue on with the recommendations, whenever possible, use only native plants that are appropriate for your region. Ask your local nursery to start carrying more native plants. Use exotic ornaments only if you cannot find a native alternative and you are sure the ornamental is non-invasive. Clean construction machines before moving to a new job site. The mud and soil stuck to the machine can harbor seeds from the invasive plants. Try to avoid disturbing natural areas whenever possible. Disturbing natural areas can increase the susceptibility to invasion by exotic species. Help out in your community. Join a local native plant organization or native fish and or wildlife group. Local agencies and state and federal governments have placed mandates depending on the species and the amount of damage they cause to the environment. These mandates explain what a person can do to help assist and combat these species, whether it's by contacting the agency responsible for removing the invader or what steps you can take to participate. One method in the state of Florida, divers and anglers are encouraged to capture as many of the lionfish and keep them rather than throwing them back. The lionfish are also captured by scuba divers and removed from the area by spear and specialized storage bags to ensure that the barbs do not puncture the diver. Local agencies are trying to have local seafood restaurants serve the fish and utilize local fishermen and divers to catch the fish for a profit. The rosary pea is considered a level 1 invasive plant and must be removed carefully, and if the area has a large area of concentration of the plant, a removal team from the state will have to come in and remove the plants from the affected area. The pythons are hunted by selected professional hunters, and the snakes are captured and euthanized in a humane manner, then brought to a science station to be studied. When dealing with any plant or animal, invasive or not, a person should always exercise extreme caution and not exceed their limits, knowledge, or ability with plants or animals, and should seek assistance and information from their local city, county, or they can go to fws.org and type in the invasive species name, and this will help give you information needed to combat the invader and who to contact. In conclusion, one person cannot single-handedly stop an invasive species, but they can help in the fight and provide a huge helping hand, whether that is contacting the proper authorities, donating time and or money, or assisting in eradicating the problem. We all have a duty to our community and ourselves and environment. Thank you.